So within the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy, the character of Sephiroth has been pretty mysterious. We still don't really know what his motivations are, which version of Sephiroth are we dealing with, and what's been even more mysterious is the lack of Tyler Hoechlin in any of the marketing. Tyler Hoechlin being the voice of Sephiroth. However, that has changed recently because Tyler has spoken a little bit about playing Sephiroth and even compares him to playing Superman. So we're going to take a look at those comments in today's video because it's actually a pretty big deal and super cool. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button. And if you're new here and you'd like to stick around, you can subscribe. And as always, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. So these comments from Tyler actually come from a Comic-Con panel he did last year to promote the show Superman and Lois, which is incredible. I highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. I legitimately think it's one of the best pieces of Superman media we've gotten in a very, very long time. The writing, the special effects, the pacing, it's an incredible show. 4 seasons, not a bad season in the bunch. And Tyler has quickly become my favorite interpretation of Clark Kent in Superman, which might sound sacrilegious to some people, but he is phenomenal. And because his version is on TV, unfortunately, I don't think it will get the praise that it deserves, but the dude does an incredible job of portraying this character and really makes him super dynamic, not just as Clark, but as Superman. He's a father who wants to take care of his family. He's not perfect. He's got struggles. Superman's got some weaknesses. He doesn't just beat people up. He gets beat down and learns lessons. It's a phenomenal show. But while promoting the show at this panel, a fan asked a question to Tyler asking him what it was like to portray an iconic hero like Superman, but also a legendary villain like Sephiroth. And instead of just reading the quote to you guys, I will play the clip from the panel itself because the moment Tyler gets asked this question, his face lights up. It's almost like, finally, someone gets to ask me about Sephiroth and he finally gets to talk about it. So I'll play that clip for you guys here and then I'll show the quote afterwards.
Hi, this is a question for Tyler. You played both classic hero in Superman, but also legendary villain in Sephiroth. How do you compare playing these two different roles, and who do you think would win in a fight between your two versions?
I mean, Superman's winning. I know. Superman's winning that fight, in my opinion. But no, I mean, it was very cool. Like I said, so being able to play the hero in one thing and then playing the, this iconic villain in another piece, really fun. Totally different vibes with the two characters. So being able to bounce in between the two of those. It's also funny. It's kind of like you kind of need black and white for contrast, and so there were times where I'd actually do the voice of that character while we were filming, and it was a nice being able to look in the mirror and see like, okay, so this is Sephiroth, which emphasized certain things about Clark and about Superman and vice versa. So it was really fun to have those two things to bounce between.
Thanks.
So props to the fan that asked him that question. If I ever got the opportunity to interview Tyler, I would ask him the same exact thing because again, these characters are so very similar to one another, which we will get to in just a second. But addressing that first part, who would win in a fight, Superman or Sephiroth? Honestly, it's gonna sound like a cop-out. It'd probably be a stalemate. Both of these guys are incredibly powerful and fast. They're skilled fighters with very few weaknesses. Obviously for Superman, his weaknesses are kryptonite and magic, which Sephiroth can wield magic no problem, but it really kind of seems like the only person who can beat Sephiroth in a fight is Cloud. So I think they would just fight to a stalemate. Maybe you throw Cloud in there to back up Clark. Might be a different story. But to see that Tyler actually finally gets to talk about Sephiroth for once is really cool. And up to this point, Tyler hasn't participated in any of the promotion for 7 Remake or Rebirth, and I really do think that's by design. And also the fact that the dude is really busy. He's been acting since he was a little kid in this industry, and seemingly since his role on Teen Wolf, which funny enough, Cody Christian, the voice of Cloud, was also on that show, the dude's been booked solid for a very long stretch of time. After Teen Wolf, he would go on to portray Superman for 4 years in the Arrowverse, and then for 4 years in the universe of Superman and Lois. He's done some movies here and there, so the dude is incredibly busy, and I just don't think he has the time in his schedule to participate in the promotion, which sucks, but that's just how it works out. Secondly, Sephiroth is still a very mysterious character, especially within the remake trilogy, and I don't think Square Enix wants their voice actor to participate in interviews where he's breaking down the psyche of Sephiroth and explaining explaining his motivations and character traits and going in depth. A lot of that stuff is still very mysterious. So maybe around the time of Remake Part 3, when that comes out, Tyler can, participate in more of the marketing and get to speak on playing this character in a much deeper fashion. Because he's clearly got a lot to say, and even though this was just a very quick comment, he clearly understands not just Superman and Clark Kent, but how nuanced of a character Sephiroth actually is. Which leads me to just how similar these characters actually are. They're almost kind of two sides of the same coin. We've seen good versions of these characters, and we've seen evil versions of these characters. At their core, when they're good guys, they do care about integrity, helping people, doing the right thing, fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. And funny enough, there are these godlike beings who, in the case of Superman and Clark, are some of the most human people out there. He can smash a planet in half probably if he wanted to, but he just really is a normal dude and wants to live a normal life. He just happens to be a superpowered godlike being. And for Sephiroth, we're learning through Ever Crisis that as he reflects on his life on the edge of creation, he just craves normalcy. He dreams about being a young kid who gets to spend time with his mom and have picnics with her and tell her how much he loves her and vice versa, and he wants to have friends and just kind of be a normal dude. Because he doesn't know any of that. All he knows is his life with Shinra and being a soldier and fighting. And if we look at the flip side of that, we look at the evil versions of these characters, specifically with Superman, most prominently in the Injustice franchise. Evil Superman is very much about control. He sees the world a certain way after losing his wife and wants to do everything he can to ensure that never happens again, but he goes so far that he creates this incredibly authoritarian regime that is controlling everyone. And in his mind, he's the good guy. He's saving people. He's helping the world, but he doesn't realize that he's doing it in a way that is so extreme and wrong. And with Sephiroth, again, like with the evil version of him, and based on what we know, he again wants that control. He wants to defy destiny. So these are characters that are actually very, very similar to one another. And funny enough, Tyler's not the first actor to voice Sephiroth and also play Superman. The previous voice of Sephiroth, George Newbern, was also the voice of Superman in many animated projects for decades. So there's some weird serendipity there, which is kind of funny. And just based on these comments, to know that Tyler had moments on set where he kind of turned to Sephiroth in a way, and to use that Sephiroth voice for certain performances or scenes is honestly super cool. And to see that kind of synergy where you have an actor playing two different characters, but he's kind of pulling from each one for specific things, I think is dope, because he does the same thing in Rebirth. There are moments where the pre-snap Nibelheim version of Sephiroth kind of has some Clark Kent to him, kind of has some Superman to him in some of the conversations that he has with the characters, specifically Cloud. And when it comes to Superman and Lois and him using the Sephiroth voice, oh boy, there are so many moments in that show that he pulls and uses that voice. Again, this is a phenomenal show. I highly recommend, if you've never checked it out, check it out. 4 seasons, easy to watch, fantastic show from top to bottom. But there's one scene in particular from that show that has gone viral over the years, where Clark goes to a diner to confront a man who pulled a gun on his wife Lois and one of his kids. And Clark is pissed. And Lois is telling him, like, don't do this. This isn't a job for Superman. And Clark is like, oh, he's not going. And when Clark goes to that diner, he finds the man and he confronts him. It is 100% Sephiroth. The tone that he uses to kind of threaten this guy, it's basically Sephiroth. And I will play the clip for you guys so you can hear it yourself.
You hit my son. Pulled a gun on my wife. And now you and I are gonna step outside so we can talk.
I'm not going anywhere with you.
I'd really rather not do this in front of your daughter.
You think she hasn't seen this before?
Now, if you ever threaten my family again, take something that isn't yours, or sell another dangerous drug, I will come for you.
Okay.
and my wife will expose who you really are, and you will go away for a very long time. Now leave.
Damn, Ken.
And as you can see from that clip, that is Sephiroth right there. But it's like a mixture of Sephiroth, like good guy Sephiroth, but also that deeper, more menacing kind of Sephiroth that pulls through, that Clark has to kind of pull from, of like, you just pulled a gun on my family. You're lucky I don't rip you limb from limb, essentially. And that's one of the things I really love about Tyler's performance, not just as Sephiroth, but as Clark Kent and Superman, is that they are very nuanced. And like Tyler says, you need that contrast there for these characters to make them interesting. And we see that conflict within Clark and Superman of trying to be a good father, trying to save the world, while also just trying to balance everyday issues that people would go through. And you see Sephiroth face very similar conflicts, especially in Crisis Core, of working for Shinra, but also knowing like there's some deeper secrets here with Shinra that don't sit right with me. And he wants to do the right thing. He wants to have that integrity and stand by his friends, especially if they're the ones in the right. And again, seeing Sephiroth reflect on his earlier years where he was this teenager who was trained to be a soldier, who participated in all these crazy wars and would eventually become a war hero, it's very clear that that version of Sephiroth really did just want to be a hero that saved people, which kind of bleeds into a new theory that I've been thinking about lately. And it's not a great theory, but I think it's kind of interesting and leads to an interesting talking point of what one of Sephiroth's motivations might actually be. So I did do a video many moons ago talking about Sephiroth's motivations, what are they? And the conclusion that we came to is that Sephiroth does in fact need Cloud's help to get rid of somebody. And we think that somebody is Jenova. Why? I think there's two reasons here. A, if Cloud helps Sephiroth get rid of Jenova, that creates a power vacuum. Sephiroth can then step into that power vacuum and become way more stronger than he's ever been, and then enact whatever mission he has planned. That's one of the main motivators I think that Sephiroth has that's probably going to end up coming to fruition. But I was also thinking about, we're seeing Sephiroth reflect on his earlier years, desperately wanting to help people and save them. And based on what we've seen in Crisis Core, that hasn't exactly worked out perfectly for Sephiroth, because the people that he wants to save either A, he can't save, or B, don't want to be saved, which doesn't sit well with Sephiroth, and in turn kind of makes him push the people around him away, even though he does want people around him. And some of the stuff that he goes through makes him feel less human and more like just a weapon that Shinra is using to prop up their company and get certain things done. So what if, stick with me here, Sephiroth's motivation this time around is, yes, Cloud, I really do genuinely need and want your help, because again, he is being very genuine to Cloud on the edge of creation, while also still being kind of sus to a degree. Cloud, let us defy destiny. You're gonna help me beat Jenova and get rid of her. And what if one of the motivations for Sephiroth is actually good intentions here? What if by eliminating Jenova, he creates a world within the live stream where a Sephiroth can grow up and live a normal life, not have any Jenova influence over him. He can kind of fight back on what Shinra and Hojo are kind of feeding him, and maybe he still becomes a soldier and he still becomes a war hero, but he never actually goes down that path of evil and he becomes a good guy. Because again, that is to the core of what we're learning about Sephiroth, is he wants to help people. And maybe he figures, I couldn't help these people, I couldn't save those people, but I have a chance to maybe save myself. And while that wouldn't affect the modern Sephiroth that we're dealing with, it again would create a world where a good Sephiroth could potentially exist. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of a good Sephiroth or a Sephiroth that gets a redemption, but this technically wouldn't be the main Sephiroth that we're dealing with. It would be a Sephiroth from a different world who could be a good guy. And again, the idea of a good Sephiroth fighting an evil Sephiroth, it just seems really cool, man. I don't think they'll do it. But that was something that I was thinking about recently of, what if that's part of Sephiroth's goal, is just creating a world where he can save his younger self and spare that version all of the tragedy that he himself has gone through. But either way, that's just a theory, a game theory. I'm probably going to get copyrighted for that or sued. I had to borrow it. but it's very interesting. And again, Tyler does such a fantastic job voicing this character. I really do hope that when part 3 swings around, he gets to be a part of the promotion for the game, and he gets to be a part of these panels and interviews and gets to talk and hang out with the rest of the cast. Maybe you do a sit-down conversation between Tyler and Cody Christian where they talk about portraying these characters in the relationship that these two have with one another. I think it could be really awesome, and I just really would love to hear more of Tyler's thoughts on Sephiroth. So hopefully we get that in the future. So with that being said, that is the video. Let me know in the comments down below, what did you think of Tyler's comments in regards to not only Sephiroth, but Superman and Clark Kent? And what do you guys think is Sephiroth's motivation? I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.